The stranger in the tavern. The fire crackled low in the traveller's tavern that night, whispering sparks into the dim air. The scent of spiced ale and rain-damp cloaks filled the room, where wanderers and hunters huddled close to the hearth. Then the door opened with a slow, reluctant groan. A figure stepped in, cloaked in silver grey, his boots caked with mud that shimmered faintly as if touched by starlight. None recognized him, yet the innkeeper nodded knowingly, as though he had seen that face in another lifetime. The stranger took a seat by the fire, laying upon the table a small, ancient lyre carved of moonstone and ash wood. "Play us a tune, traveller," someone called from the corner. The stranger smiled, a quiet, sorrowful smile. "A tune, perhaps," he said softly, "but first, a tale. A tale older than kings and older still than sorrow." The tavern hushed. Even the rain outside seemed to still its song. "They called her Lirael, the Moonkeeper," he began. "She who walked the edge of night and light. The last of the starlit order." His voice carried the weight of time itself. In the age before crowns and iron, when forests whispered secrets to the wind, Lirael was chosen by the moon to guard its tears, crystals that fell when the moon wept for humankind. But there were those who sought them, men who would cage the sky. The fire popped, and shadows danced like spirits across the walls. They came with torches and hunger in their hearts. And thus began the tragedy of the Moonkeeper, a tale of devotion, betrayal, and the night that forgot its own light. The stranger plucked the lyre once, a single note that trembled like a tear. "Listen well," he said. "For the moon remembers what the world forgets." The moon's chosen. Long before the tavern was built upon this crossroads of dust and dreams, there stood a valley wrapped in silver mist. It was said the moon herself descended there once each century to bless the waters. From those waters, a child was found, barefoot, silent, her eyes reflecting the night sky. They named her Lirael. She grew among the elders of the Vale, who tended to the ancient wells and guarded the moon's relics. While other children played with wooden swords, Lirael would walk the glades at dusk, speaking softly to the fireflies as if they could understand her. The old women said she was half moonlight, half girl. When she turned 16, the moon called to her. It began with dreams, visions of a vast ocean of stars, and a voice like the sound of 1,000 chimes whispering her name. "Keeper," it said, "the time has come." On the eve of the lunar bloom, she followed the pull up the mountain of Myrrodane, where the wind howled like lost souls. At its summit stood the altar of tears, where moonlight gathered into pools of liquid silver. Lirael knelt, and as she touched the light, it rose to meet her, swirling around her hands. Her reflection vanished, replaced by the image of the moon's face, calm, mournful, eternal. "Guard what falls from me," said the voice. "For each tear holds memory. Should they be stolen, the world will forget its heart." From that night, Lirael bore the mark of the Moonkeeper, a pale sigil upon her wrist that shimmered with soft light. And wherever she walked, nightingales sang though none could see them. Yet, far from the Vale, word of her gift spread. Kings and sorcerers, hungry for immortality, heard of the crystals born from the moon's sorrow. They called them lunaris tears, believing they could bind fate, rewrite memory, or summon the dead. And so the hunters of the crown began their march toward the Vale of Silver Mist. The coming of the hunters. The night they came, the air itself seemed to hold its breath. A pale fog crept through the valley, carrying with it the scent of iron and ash. The people of the Vale, unaccustomed to war, mistook the glow on the horizon for dawn. But Lirael knew. She had seen it in her dreams, flames devouring the silver streams, cries echoing through the hollows of time. By the time the horn sounded, the soldiers of the Eastern Crown were already upon them. Their armor caught the moonlight, glinting cruelly. They bore banners stitched with serpents and suns, symbols of dominion. The leader rode ahead, a man whose eyes reflected no light. Lord Cedric of Averenn, they called him, the one who sought to tame the heavens. "Where is she?" he demanded, his voice cutting through the night like a blade. "Where is the one they call Moonkeeper?" The villagers, trembling, said nothing. but their silence betrayed them. From the shadows of the temple steps, Lirael emerged, her silver cloak glimmering faintly. "I am here," she said, her voice calm, though her heart trembled. "Why do you seek me?" Kedrick dismounted slowly. "You hold what does not belong to you," he said. "The tears of the moon are relics of power. Power meant for men, not gods." Lirael met his gaze. "They are not for men," she whispered. "They are for memory. They are for love, for sorrow, for the balance between the light and the dark." Kedrick's expression hardened. "Then you will give them freely, or watch your people burn." The moon broke through the clouds, casting a pale light upon the valley. Lirael felt its warmth on her skin, a whisper of comfort before the storm. "I will not let the world forget," she said. And with that, the war for the moon's tears began. Swords clashed, fires rose, and the veil of silver mist was swallowed by darkness. When the dawn finally came, it brought no songbirds, no laughter, only the silence of what had been lost. The Shattered Vale. When the first light of dawn brushed the mountains, the vale lay in ruin. The once silver streams ran dark with soot, and the temple's pillars had crumbled into ash. The hunters had taken what they could, scrolls, relics, fragments of the moon's tears, and left behind only silence. Lirael knelt where the altar of tears once stood. Beneath her hands, the ground was still warm. She pressed her palm against the earth and felt the pulse of something ancient fading. "The moon weeps for you," whispered the wind. She raised her gaze to the sky, where the moon hung pale and dim even in daylight. For the first time, it did not answer her call. In the stillness, a soft cry reached her ears. She turned to find a small child among the ruins, clutching a broken lantern. His face was streaked with ash, his eyes too old for his years. "Everyone's gone," he said. "They took the light." Lirael gathered him into her arms. "Then we will find it again," she promised. That night, as the moon returned to its throne in the heavens, Lirael lit the remnants of her sacred flame and swore her vow. "By the silver and the shadow, I will guard what remains. Until the last star falls, I shall not rest." The boy became her companion, silent and steadfast. Together they wandered through forests that no longer sang, across rivers that forgot their names. Wherever they went, people spoke of strange lights that moved through the trees, and of a woman whose eyes glowed faintly beneath her hood. But Lord Kedrick was not finished. The shards of the stolen moon tears had given him visions, fragments of memory, flashes of forgotten truths. They had also begun to consume him. He dreamed of the same pale figure each night, whispering his name from the other side of the sky. And so, obsession took root. He sent his hunters once more, not for the relics this time, but for Lirael herself. For only the Moonkeeper could restore what he had broken. The hunt through the Nightwood. The Nightwood was unlike any forest of men. It breathed. The trees whispered with voices older than kingdoms, their roots tangled like veins beneath the earth. Mist coiled through the undergrowth, and strange lights flickered in the hollows, not fireflies, but wandering souls. Lirael moved silently, the boy close behind her. They had walked for 3 nights without rest. The moon above seemed thin and distant, its light fractured as though peering through tears. "Will they find us?" the boy asked. His name was Erin, though Lirael called him Little Flame, for his spirit refused to dim. "They always find what they seek," she murmured. "But so do I." Behind them, the sound of hooves echoed faintly, distant, yet certain. Kedrick's hunters had entered the Nightwood. They carried torches, but the flames burned strangely blue, for no ordinary fire survived under those boughs. As they pressed deeper, the forest began to turn against them. Shadows shifted, forming faces that mocked the intruders. One man swore he heard his mother's voice calling from the dark. Another vanished, swallowed by the whispering mist. Lirael felt the pull of the moon through the canopy, faint but steady, guiding her towards something ancient hidden within the forest's heart. Then, a low hum. From the darkness rose shapes like woven light, translucent as smoke. spirits of the old world, the guardians of the Nightwood. Their eyes glowed with the reflection of distant stars. Keeper of the moon, they intoned, why do you walk where memory sleeps? I seek what was stolen, she said, bowing her head. The tears of the moon have fallen into mortal hands. The spirits stirred. Then the world trembles, they replied. For each tear lost, a memory dies. Even the moon will forget its own face. Lirael's heart sank. Then help me. The tallest of the spirits leaned close, its form bending like wind over water. The way is perilous. Beyond this forest lies the hollow mirror, where truth devours those who seek it. Erin grasped her hand. We'll face it, he said. The spirits fell silent, and then, one by one, they turned their light upon a single path. A trail of silver leaves appeared where none had been before. The moon remembers you, whispered the forest. And the hunt pressed on. The hollow mirror. At the edge of the Nightwood the earth dropped away into silence. Mist pooled like milk over a vast hollow, and at its center lay a lake so still it seemed made of glass. No ripple disturbed its face, no wind dared to cross it. It was said the lake reflected not the sky above, but the truth beneath the world, thus its name, the hollow mirror. Lirael felt the pull of moonlight tighten around her wrist mark. It ached like a heartbeat out of rhythm. She and Erin stepped down the embankment until their reflections rose to meet them, two pale figures drifting upon the water. Is it safe? The boy whispered. Nothing worth finding ever is, she answered, and placed her bare foot upon the surface. The water did not break. It shivered, then held her weight as though remembering who she was. Erin followed, and the lake rang with a single chime, clear and low. Fog coiled upward, shaping into faces, hundreds of them, familiar and strange. Lirael saw the elders of her Vale, her mother's smile, even Kedric's cold eyes. The mirror was showing what the moon remembered. Then the voices began, soft at first, then sharp. You failed them. You let the tears fall. You guard only ghosts. Lirael's knees weakened. The lake wanted confession. The more she resisted, the heavier her limbs became. Erin grasped her sleeve. Don't listen, he pleaded. They are lies. No, she said through trembling lips, they are truths, but not the whole of it. She drew the lyre from beneath her cloak, the same instrument the traveler would one day play in the tavern, and struck a single note. The sound rippled outward, breaking the illusion. The faces dissolved, leaving only moonlight scattered across the water. From beneath the lake, something rose, a shape like a doorway made of liquid silver. A voice drifted through. Beyond lies the veil of memory. Step through, and the moon may show you how to restore what was taken. But every answer demands a forgetting. Lirael looked down at the boy. If I forget, who will remember the rest? I will, he said simply. She smiled, and together they stepped through the mirror's shining mouth. The veil of memory. Light folded in on itself as Lirael and Erin passed through the mirror. Sound vanished. The world stretched, then settled into a hush that felt like the space between breaths. Before them spread a plain of pale dunes that shimmered not with sand but with drifting fragments of memory, tiny scenes looping endlessly, a mother brushing her child's hair, a night falling beneath a banner, lovers laughing beneath a willow. This is what the moon remembers, Lirael murmured. Each fragment pulsed with silver fire before fading back into the dust. Erin reached toward one. The image burst into light and vanished. They disappear when I touch them. Because they are not yours, she said gently. The veil keeps what was lost but never claimed. Far ahead rose a tower made of translucent stone, its peak bending as though it leaned to listen to the stars. Around it drifted shapes, wingless beings with eyes like eclipses, guardians of the veil. Their voices were a choir of wind and water. Keeper of the moon, they sang, why come you here, where even gods forget their names? To restore the tears, she answered. Men have stolen them, and the world grows hollow. One guardian descended, its face unreadable. Then you must gather the echoes of what was stolen. For every tear that fell into mortal hands, a piece of memory was cut away. To reclaim them, you must walk the lost moments of others, and in doing so, surrender parts of your own. Erin stepped forward. "Take mine first," he said boldly. The Guardian's gaze softened. "Brave child. You have little yet to give." It turned back to Lirael. "Beyond the tower lies the Hall of Echoes. There you will meet the first forgotten soul. Beware, its grief may drown you." Lirael bowed. "Then let me learn to swim in sorrow." As they approached the tower, the fragments of memory began to orbit her like moons. She felt their weight, centuries of laughter and loss pressing against her heart. At the tower's gate a single tear of the moon floated, suspended, glowing with impossible beauty. Within it flickered an image of Cedric himself, standing before a throne of bone, his eyes hollow, his hand clutching another of the stolen crystals. Erin looked up at her. "He's still chasing the light. And I," she whispered, "must chase the shadow that follows it." The gates of the hall opened soundlessly, and the light swallowed them whole. The first forgotten soul. Inside the Hall of Echoes, time hung like dust in a beam of light. Pillars of translucent stone rose toward no ceiling, and within each one a shape drifted, people half seen, half remembered, murmuring names that broke before they reached the air. The floor mirrored the sky, every step Lirael took sent ripples through a reflection that wasn't hers. At the center knelt a woman in a gown of withered gold. Her crown was tarnished, her eyes clear as frost. When she spoke, her voice sounded like a harp string long unplayed. "You tread the halls of my silence," she said. "Tell me, child of the moon, why disturb the sleep of the forgotten?" Lirael bowed. "Because memory is dying in the world above. I seek the moon's tears to mend it." The queen's gaze flickered with something like pity. "Then you seek pieces of me. For I was the first to guard the tears before you." Lirael's breath caught. "You?" "Yes," the queen said softly. "Once, I was called Serene, ruler of Edrith. I drank a single tear, believing it would keep my kingdom from decay. It granted me centuries, until my people forgot my name. Immortality without remembrance is only stone that breathes." Erin stepped closer. "Can we free you?" Serene smiled, thin and distant. "To free me is to remember me. Will you bear my sorrow, keeper?" Lirael hesitated, then reached out. The queen placed her cold hand upon Lirael's heart. In that instant the hall filled with visions, a city of alabaster towers sinking beneath a sea of mist, bells tolling for a generation lost to time. The sound burned through Lirael's veins, she gasped, but did not pull away. When the vision faded, Serene's image began to dissolve into silver dust. "You carry my memory now," she whispered. "Go quickly, the others wait." As her final light scattered, one of the moon's tears crystallized beside Lirael's feet. It pulsed once, then stilled, heavy with the sorrow she had inherited. Erin bent to pick it up. "Is this what they all will cost?" Lirael nodded. "Every memory reclaimed must live somewhere. I will be their vessel." From the far end of the hall, a door opened onto darkness lit by threads of gold. The air smelled of smoke and sea salt, a memory of battle calling her onward. The battle that never ended. The doorway spilled them into a plain of smoke and thunder. The sky burned crimson, the air shuddered with the clang of swords. All around them, soldiers fought and fell, their bodies dissolving into mist the moment they touched the ground, only to rise again and fight anew. It was a memory looped upon itself, a war that refused to end. Erin flinched as a phantom arrow passed through his arm and scattered into sparks. "Are they real?" "They were," Lirael answered. "Now they are trapped in the moment of their dying." A horn blared in the distance, and from the fog emerged a man clad in fractured armor, his helm shaped like the crescent moon. The light of the moon's tears flickered in his breastplate, a shard embedded there like a wound. When he saw Lirael, he lowered his sword. "So, the moon sends another keeper to judge me." "Who are you?" she asked, though part of her already knew. He removed his helm. His face was young and ancient all at once, eyes grey as steel. I am Commander Thalen of Myrodane. I fought for a kingdom that forgot what peace meant. When my king fell, I swore upon a tear of the moon that our cause would never die. And it hasn't, Lirael said softly, watching the soldiers rise and fall in endless rhythm. Thalen nodded. The tear bound us here. We cannot rest until we remember why we fought. But centuries have worn our purpose away. We fight now only to hear the echo of our oaths. She approached him, her cloak catching the red light. If I take the tear from you, will the battle end? He looked toward his men, faces lost to shadow. They have followed me through death and forgetting. If you take it, we vanish, our story gone. Lirael's heart ached. Then let me carry your story. Speak it, and I will remember. Thalen sank to one knee. We fought not for land, nor gold, but for the right to dream of a dawn unbroken by conquest. Tell the moon that we remembered what mercy was, even as we forgot our names. She touched his chest. The shard came free like breath leaving a body, glowing brighter as it left him. Around them, the soldiers lowered their weapons, their forms fading into soft light that rose toward the dark sky like lanterns. Thalen smiled faintly. Thank you, Keeper. Tell her the war is done. Then he too was gone. The plain grew still, and a new tear floated into Lirael's hand, warm with the weight of countless souls finally at peace. Erin looked up, eyes wide. 2 tears now. Yes, she whispered, feeling their light pulse in her palm. And each one heavier than the last. Beyond the quiet battlefield, pale road unfolded, cobblestones made of moonlight leading toward a horizon that shimmered with shifting colors. Lirael knew what waited there, the next soul, the next sorrow. Come, little flame, she said. The night is long. The city of forgotten songs. They followed the pale road until sound replaced distance. The horizon itself began to hum, soft at first, then blooming into melody. A valley opened below, lit by drifting motes of light that moved like fireflies but sang like flutes. At its heart lay a city woven from music, bridges strung with harp strings, towers that rang with choral tones whenever the wind passed through their hollows. This place feels alive, Erin whispered. It is, Lirael said. But it shouldn't be. They entered through gates of bone-white stone. Spectres moved through the streets, translucent and serene, each humming a fragment of song. No one spoke, every greeting was a note, every sorrow a chord. Yet the music never resolved. It swelled and broke apart, trapped in endless harmony without an ending. From a balcony high above drifted a voice unlike the others, clear, mournful, piercing the heart. Lirael looked up and saw a woman robed in ribbons of light, her hair like flowing starlight. Around her floated instruments that played themselves, tethered to her grief. Keeper, she called, you walk upon the breath of my ruin. Who are you? Lirael asked, bowing low. I am Melian of the lute, minstrel of the moon court. I sang the first lullaby the moon ever heard. Her gaze dropped to the streets below. But pride made me believe my song alone could hold eternity. When the moon wept, I caught one tear and bound my voice to it, so that no silence could ever touch me. Erin frowned. And now you can't stop singing. Melian smiled sadly. Worse. The song forgot me. It plays itself, and I am merely the echo that keeps it alive. Lirael felt the 2 tears she carried tremble, resonating with the music around them. Let me take your burden, she said. Let the silence remember you. The minstrel's eyes shimmered with hope. Then listen. Carry my final verse. She raised her hands. The instrument stilled, the city paused, and one pure note hung in the air. It quivered, split, and became a luminous drop of silver. Lirael reached out, the note turned solid, the 3rd tear. As it touched her palm, the city began to fade. The towers dimmed, the hum fell into gentle quiet, and Melian's form dissolved into dust shaped like sound. Tell her, the fading voice whispered, that even in silence, the song still dreams. When all light was gone, only stillness remained. Lirael stood amidst the echo, her eyes wet. Erin slipped his small hand into hers. "How many more?" he asked. "As many as the moon remembers," she replied. And the road of silver light unfolded once again, stretching into the darkness beyond. The awakening of the deep. The tremors came first. Subtle at dawn, like the earth was sighing beneath the weight of 1,000 forgotten dreams. Then louder, thunder rolling beneath the ground. The villagers near the cliffs of Eldhaven ran to the sea's edge, eyes wide with terror as the waters churned black and red, swirling into a monstrous vortex. Something ancient was stirring beneath. From the depths rose a sound, not a beast or man, but something far older, a low, mournful song that made the air quiver. Flocks of birds fell silent in mid-flight. The waves grew still. Then came a ripple, and from it, the shimmering back of something vast. Scales that glowed faintly beneath the moonlight, eyes like twin suns flickering underwater. Ildred, now an old man wandering the coastal wilds, felt it. His heart seized, not in fear, but recognition. The prophecy of the Whispering Woods had been true. The creature, the Leviathan of Eloria, the keeper of the tides, was awakening to seek what had once been stolen, the Heartstone. Meanwhile, far inland, Myra stood at the base of the Eldwood tree. The pendant pulsed violently now, warm as living flesh. Her dreams had been haunted by whispers of the sea, by visions of Ildred's past, and of a storm that would soon swallow the world. She pressed her hand to the trunk, whispering, "Show me what I must do." The tree's roots glowed, spiraling outward. A voice, soft and ancient, echoed through her mind. "When the sea remembers, the sky must answer. Find a man who once held the stars in his eyes. Together, you must mend the rift, or all shall drown in sorrow." The ground split open before her, revealing a path of light leading toward the west, toward the roaring waves where destiny awaited. Myra took one final look at the glowing forest behind her. The wind carried a distant hum, as if the world itself held its breath. She stepped forward, into the mist, where the ocean called her name. The meeting at the edge of the world. The journey west took Myra through lands that had long forgotten the warmth of the sun. The skies were perpetually grey, the winds carried the scent of salt and storm, and the very earth seemed restless beneath her boots. Villages lay abandoned, their wells dry, their windows shattered, all fleeing from the rising tide that gnawed at the land's edges. For 7 nights she walked alone, guided by the pulsing pendant that glowed brighter the closer she came to the sea. On the 8th night, beneath a bruised sky streaked with lightning, she reached the cliffs of Eldhaven. There, standing upon the edge as if carved from the rock itself, was an old man cloaked in weather-worn leather. His hair, silver as moonlight. His eyes, impossibly blue. He turned slowly as she approached. "You carry the forest's whisper," he said, his voice rough, carrying the weight of centuries. Myra nodded. "And you are the wanderer they call Ildred." He smiled faintly, as though amused by a ghost's name. "Once, perhaps. Now I am merely a man waiting for the world to wait." She held out the pendant, its glow flickering like a heartbeat. "The Eldwood sent me. It said you once held the stars in your eyes." Ildred's expression darkened. He looked to the horizon, where the sea churned, restless and bright with strange light. "Then it is true," he murmured. "The Leviathan stirs again." Lightning split the sky, revealing a monstrous silhouette beneath the waves. The sea itself seemed to rise and fall with the creature's breathing. "What must we do?" Myra asked, clutching the pendant as the ground trembled beneath them. Ildred turned to her, eyes fierce. "We must return the Heartstone to its cradle, deep within the Leviathan's lair. But once we go below, there is no promise we shall return." Myra looked toward the ocean, her heart thundering like the storm. "Then we go together." Ildred nodded. "Together, then. As prophecy demands." The wind howled around them, carrying the scent of salt, magic, and destiny. The descent beneath the waves. The storm broke upon them like a living thing, shrieking through the cliffs and tearing at their cloaks as they descended toward the shore. The sea glowed faintly beneath the lightning, green and silver light rippling across its surface as if the stars themselves had drowned within it. Yildred led Myra to a narrow cove hidden behind jagged rocks. "Here," he said, kneeling by the surf. "The entrance lies beneath the tide. The Leviathan's lair is not a place of breath, but of memory. You must let it take you, or you will never reach the heart." Myra's pulse quickened. "How can we breathe below?" Yildred drew from his belt a shard of crystal, pale and flickering like frozen fire. "This was given to me long ago by the Watcher of the Deep. It will lend us passage. But it will not last long." He pressed the shard against the pendant at Myra's neck. The two objects flared together, and suddenly the ocean's roar seemed distant, like the world itself was holding its breath. Without hesitation, Yildred stepped into the waves. Myra followed. The cold struck her like knives at first, then softened into a strange warmth. The world around her shimmered, water no longer water, light no longer light. Shapes moved in the distance, fast and slow, like mountains drifting through dreams. They descended deeper, passing through curtains of bioluminescent mist. Beneath them, the ruins of an ancient city emerged, towers overgrown with coral, statues of forgotten gods reaching toward the surface in silent plea. Yildred's voice echoed through the water, though his lips did not move. "Behold Eloria, the kingdom that once sought to rule the tides." Myra's gaze caught on a massive structure ahead, a gate wrought from black pearl and bone, guarded by two figures of living stone. Between them pulsed a massive glow, like a beating heart. "The Heartstone," she whispered. But the light dimmed suddenly, and the sea trembled. From the shadows beyond the gate, a low rumble rose, deep and mournful, shaking the ruins. Two vast eyes opened in the dark. The Leviathan had awakened. The voice of the Leviathan. The water around them trembled as if it were alive. The massive eyes fixed on Myra and Yildred, glowing gold and blue like twin suns behind the abyssal veil. Each blink sent ripples through the ocean floor, stirring ancient sand and shattered relics of kingdoms long forgotten. Then came the voice, not spoken, but felt. It resonated through bone and memory, through the very rhythm of their hearts. "Children of dust, you return with the light that was stolen." Myra clutched the pendant, its pulse syncing with the deep, slow thrum of the creature's heart. "You are the Leviathan," she whispered. "The keeper of the deep." The voice rumbled again, softer now, almost mournful. "Once I was that. Before men sought to cage the sea and bind my song to their will." Images flooded Myra's mind, of shining towers rising from the water, sorcerers chanting under moonlight, and the Heartstone glowing bright atop a throne of coral. Then, chaos, the city sinking, the ocean turning crimson, and the Leviathan chained beneath the depths, its song silenced. Yildred's expression was grim. "Eloria fell because of its own greed," he said. "But the curse lives still. The storms, the hunger of the tide, all born of that theft." The Leviathan's eyes dimmed. "To end it, the stone must return to me. But beware, mortal flame, to give the heart back is to give part of your own. Only one may leave the depths again." Myra turned to Yildred, her breath caught in her chest. "What does it mean?" He met her gaze with sorrowful calm. "It means one of us must stay." Silence filled the water, heavy, endless, eternal. The Leviathan's voice returned, echoing like a hymn through the ruins. "Decide swiftly, for the tide remembers. The sea hungers for balance." Myra felt the weight of destiny pressing upon her, an ancient choice reborn in her trembling hands. The pendant burned brighter, threads of light swirling toward the Heartstone ahead. And in that light, the past and present intertwined, the fall of Eloria, the wanderer's curse, and the echo of love long buried beneath the waves. The spirit of the mountain. The traveler's journey led him ever higher, up the spine of the world where air turned thin and clouds clung like ghosts to the cliffs. Days blurred into frostbitten nights. He climbed not for glory, but because something unseen called to him, a pulse that resonated deep within the stone. At the mountain's heart, the wind no longer screamed, it whispered. The snow beneath his boots shimmered faintly blue, and every step echoed with a strange harmony, as if the earth itself hummed. Then, in the hush between heartbeats, he saw it, a colossal shape forming out of light and mist. The spirit of the mountain rose from the snow like a god carved from breath. Its eyes burned not with fire, but with memory. Valleys trembled at its gaze. The traveler fell to his knees, the sound of his heartbeat swallowed by silence. "Why have you come, child of dust?" The spirit's voice rolled like thunder contained within the soul. "To remember," the traveler whispered, "and to atone." The mountain's rumble softened. The spirit leaned closer, vast, radiant, terrible in its stillness. "Few remember," it said. "Fewer still wish to bear the burden of truth." And with that, the spirit touched the traveler's brow. Visions flooded him, the rise and ruin of empires, oceans of light devouring darkness, the song of the earth before the first dawn. He cried out, not from pain, but awe. When he awoke, the summit was still. Only a single crystal lay before him, pulsing faintly like a living heart. He took it and whispered, "For those who forgot." The mountain sighed, and the wind carried his words down to the sleeping valleys below. The blood moon oath. He descended from the mountain changed. The world below felt smaller, more fragile, as if one touch could shatter it. Yet the crystal pulsed in his pocket, reminding him of purpose. That night, the sky bled red. The blood moon, omen and promise, hung heavy above the land. The traveler stood in a ruined field, sword planted before him, the blade catching crimson light. From the darkness came shadows, not of men but of memories. They whispered of what had been lost, kingdoms drowned, hearts turned to stone, songs forgotten. He raised his eyes to the moon and spoke words older than the tongue of kings. "I will walk the forgotten paths. I will carry the burden of the lost. And when the tide rises again, I will not turn away." The earth trembled in answer. Lightning split the sky, revealing for an instant the faint shape of the mountain spirit, watching. Blood ran from his palm where he gripped the blade, and as it fell onto the soil, the ground drank deeply. The field bloomed with pale flowers that glowed beneath the moonlight, proof that oaths, when spoken in truth, change the world. The traveler knelt, head bowed. "Let the old world forgive," he whispered. "Let the new one remember." And as dawn's first light touched the horizon, the moon's red faded, leaving only silence, and the scent of rebirth. The river of memory. The traveler followed the sound of water until he found it, the river of memory. It was not made of water but of light, flowing through the world like a living dream. Faces drifted in its glow, kings, lovers, children, forgotten souls, all caught between past and forever. He stood at its edge, and the current spoke without words. Each ripple whispered names he had never known yet somehow remembered. The crystal at his chest pulsed in harmony with the current's rhythm. He knelt, dipping his hand into the light. It was neither cold nor warm, it felt like recognition. And then, as if drawn by that touch, the faces turned toward him. "You carry the oath," they said in voices that were wind, wave, and heartbeat all at once. "Will you bear our stories too?" Tears streamed down his face. "Yes," he whispered. "All of them." The river surged, wrapping him in luminous tendrils. Visions of laughter and grief, creation and ruin, filled his mind. He felt time unravel, saw the first dawn and the last night entwined. When he staggered back, his cloak shimmered faintly, woven now with threads of light. The river calmed. Its glow dimmed to a soft pulse. And from its depths rose a faint melody, the same song sung in the valleys long ago. He turned to continue his journey, the song echoing behind him like a heartbeat that would never fade. The last dream. Night fell heavy. The traveler built a small fire beneath an old oak, the kind that had stood since the world was new. Exhaustion claimed him, and he drifted into sleep, but dreams found him before rest could. He dreamt of the woman of the Vale, her song weaving through the stars. She smiled, not as memory but as presence. "You've walked far, wanderer," she said. "Farther than most hearts dare go." He looked around. The world of the dream shimmered, forests made of starlight, rivers of shadow, the mountain in the distance breathing light. "I can't stop," he said softly. "There's more yet undone." She touched his cheek. "Then remember, not all endings are sorrow." The dream folded inward, and suddenly he stood again at the edge of the sea. Waves rolled endlessly, reflecting constellations unknown to man. A whisper rose from the deep, a voice he recognized as his own. Every story must return to where it began. He awoke with tears on his face. The fire had died to embers, and dawn crept slow and silver across the horizon. For a moment, he thought he saw her standing by the trees, but when he blinked, only mist remained. He smiled faintly. "Until the tide," he murmured, and shouldered his pack once more.